and I kind of hit the ground running because it was exactly what I was looking for at the time. I'd done a ton of therapy and had gains for sure, but kept sort of hitting up against a brick wall when it came to how do I implement changes. I can understand all of what's happening. I could tell anybody where things were coming from, why I was, making decisions I was, or why my life was the way it was. Knew all of it down to a T, but facilitating some kind of actual um, shift
Mm-hmm.
in it, I wasn't. And when you were interviewed and then I started looking at your resources, it was like, this is it. This is what I was trying to find. This is the mechanism by which I could help with this stuff. And so I began first with the free resources. I think I did that in one day. I did the 3-part healing series, and then just went straight into the 21-day um, tune up, and like I couldn't get enough. It was insatiable. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was just listening to all of the different um, YouTube interviews, videos, resources. And during that 21-day tune up, the biggest shift that I found, and it sounds kind of like not a big deal, but my presence in the moments, especially with my kids, was night and day. And I hadn't realized, I mean, I've heard a lot about being present and we should be present, be in the moment. And all of that made sense again, cerebrally. But until I did that first um, orienting exercise, I was like, oh, this is what presence is. Because I had done meditation a lot many years before and had a glimpse of it, but it didn't feel the same. This was different. It was much more presence in a conscious way rather than sort of checking out and bypassing, as you say. So that was the
Mm-hmm.
first time I've really felt that I dropped into a feeling and an experience of presence, which I have realized in a huge way is what's been so hard about parenting for me,
Right.
is not being present.
Not being present.
Mm.
I want to take you back that time. I do want to get into your parenting journey because that was a
Mhm.
big part of our connection.
Yes.
As you know, and many of my students hear this, and parents are always looking for ways to help their children. Not all parents, but many parents are looking for ways to help their kiddos. And they know that they're having, we call it in the world, anxiety, depression, ADD, all these kind of keywords that just are being thrown out all around for the kids. So I want to talk about them and how
Mhm.
they've shifted, and you've changed your interaction with them.
Yeah.
But do you remember, Dani, when you did that orienting exercise? Because that seems to be for many people who've had a history of doing mind body. Because if I believe you're a Pilates instructor,
Yeah.
correct?
And before that, I was a dancer. So the body, I knew my body. I was very connected to my body. Yeah.
So what was, as you said, it felt like there was a presence that shifted. I know this was a while ago, but if
Mm.
you were to kind of fall back into that memory, what was it that was different for you?
I think the best way to explain it, the way that you guide them, and I still find I need the guidance. It's sort of
Mhm.
a container that allows me to not go into control in a way. So having that guidance of checking in with physically how you felt in the space, as well as what was outside there, as well as what my breathing felt like. And that was huge, noticing my breath rather than controlling my breath, because Pilates is very controlled around breathing, as is when you're on stage dancing and performing. So for the first time, actually just noticing my breath and not changing it was huge. And so that feeling of presence was a curiosity and a noticing as opposed to a forcing um, feeling of
Yeah.
some concept that I did understand. I understood what it meant to be present, be in the moment. But I was never really being that. And in orienting, I felt like I was actually being present.
Thank you.
Mm,
I often wonder how many people do feel or think, there I'll go, think that they're in that presence, but,
yeah.
and it's not their fault, as you know, it's just what we've been taught, but they're really actually quite disconnected from the body for the most part.
Yes, I can say for myself, absolutely. And I
Hmm.
think that that guidance and that cueing that I believe you're a master at when it comes to the orienting, just when I might be thinking too much, you draw me into just notice your breath or just see now where your gaze is taking you, whatever it might be that you're cueing. It was just enough to keep me from checking out or going off track.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you mentioned before we hit record that the element of dissociating, I can't
Mhm.
say it today, dissociating was something or is something that you've been working with and you're still working with. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I don't think I realized. I knew I could dissociate very easily, but I would have likened that to when I needed to go into shutdown and just like put the television off and on rather, and get mindless.
Hmm.
But through the work with you, I have certainly realized that my thinking is actually a mechanism of dissociation for me. So when I'm feeling a sensation, I suppress that, go straight into my head, and start analyzing it. And I think I'm processing, and I've realized no, I'm actually dissociating when I'm starting to think too much. So the orienting has been instrumental with that
Hmm.
because it doesn't give me too much time to go into thinking. But recognizing that thinking for me is dissociation, overthinking. Some of the thinking is good,
Of
but
course.
when it goes into that overriding, actually sitting with the sensation that I'm feeling, um, then I know I'm dissociating. So it's not even that's the shift has happened in me being aware of that more
Yeah.
and now having some tools to go, okay, that's what I'm doing, just orient. And so just follow my impulse, whatever it might be. I have those sort of go tos, one, to be aware of it. And then, secondly, what do I do then when I'm
Right.
starting to do that overthinking?
Great. So you're catching yourself being pulled out of your
Yes.
body, just to repeat what you said, and your higher brain is actually helping you come back to your somatic system.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that interesting?
So interesting because I really did think, because I am very connected to my body and I always have been, but this is a very different level of connection to my body. I'm
Mm.
much more aware and much more, it's subtle yet paradoxically very overt, that I'm realizing that physical disconnection that I like to go to feel
Yeah.
safe.